Alrighty, I'm going to get things going for this evening. Again, good evening, everyone. So glad to see you here. I know there will be a few other folks joining in as we move along, and it's really nice to see so many join us for this evening. I'm Nancy Howell, one of the board members of Western Cuyahoga Audubon. We got a few announcements to make so everybody's aware of what's happening with us and what's going on in other respects. I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping, make sure that uh, you are muted while we are having a presentation. If you do have a question, please put it in the chat and we'll get those questions at the end of the presentation. So, ah, let me move along. How come I'm not? Come on. How come it's not moving along? Well, this is interesting. There. All right. So again, we have lots of items of interest that I'm going to be announcing. So a very special volunteer request, a couple of other volunteer opportunities, and of course, signing up for our e-newsletter and just being kept informed. And then I'll also be reporting for Michelle and Amanda. So we'll just move along here. So a couple things that are going on. We want to thank all of our Western Cuyahoga Audubon members and Christmas Count participants. So we're going to be having a potluck lunch on Sunday, February 15th from 1 o'clock to about 3:45 at the Parma Powers branch of the Cuyahoga County Public Library. And we ask that you bring either a main dish, a side dish, an appetizer, a dessert, and bring a family member, a partner, whatever. If you can, think about some vegetarian options and or gluten-free options. That would be lovely. Also, to have less waste, bringing non-disposable place settings, whether it's plates, bowls, cups, silverware, that type of stuff, something that you can take home and wash rather than tossing away. And then we'll also have some games. And if you have some nature-related items, some feeders you're not using, figurines, puzzles, books, nature-related, bring them along and we'll do some swapping. Now, I'm not sure if you can see because I have this big old blobby thing along the bottom of my screen, but um, RSVPs are to be, can I move this over? I don't know if I can move this over. Let me see. There we are. RSVP to EJKROEPEL at outlook.com. Don't email me, don't email info at unless you have a question. And in the subject line, put down WCAS potluck. Also add the number of people attending and what you are planning on bringing. So I hope a lot of folks are going to join us. Of course, the Great Backyard Bird Count is also that week end that we are having our potluck, and we're going to probably do a short Great Backyard Bird Count right around the library. But it does begin on Friday, February 13th, and runs through Monday, the 16th. And it's very easy. You can count birds in your yard, at least 15 minutes. Your yard, your feeder, your neighborhood, a park nearby. And it's what's really fun is to look at the website and see photos of people birding around the world and some of the awesome birds that they're seeing. They're like from India and from Thailand and from Africa. Cool, cool stuff. Wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of the Shreve migration sensation taking place on in March, on Saturday, March 14th. And you can check that information out at their website. It has the all of the activities and locations of the activities, but just wanted to make everybody aware. Now, if we want to go a little further south, the Fernald Preserve is having a winter bird fest, and that is run by the Audubon Society of Ohio, which is the Audubon Cincinnati chapter. And that is February 7th through 14th. But they do have some special days. You can see on the flyer, Sunday, February 8th, they have a family day. And it's again, this is in Hamilton, which is again just outside of Cincinnati. So you, if to register, you see the site there, Fernald at lm.doe.gov. So again, could be some really fun things to see down there during their Winter Bird Fest. It's only their second annual. Here is one of our special volunteer requests. The Browns uh, football team is going to be building a sports complex at the old Ford uh, site in Brook Park. And they are going to have lots and lots of reflective surfaces, lots of reflective windows. We're still looking for a few additional people to help on a committee. Right now, I have one, two, three, four, five, six folks that have an interest, but we need folks that are dedicated, folks that will we may have to go right to the Browns folks and say, hey, you guys need to put reflect, bird protective windows on this. We may need to go to the architects, the builders. So we need to kind of be bulldogs, no pun intended, with the with the dog pound there. But we really do need to get on the ball and at least get this building with some bird-friendly glass and reflective surfaces on there. It's going to be a while before it's built, but now is the time. So please, if you do have an interest and would like to be on a committee, help with some of the information, get in contact with me, Nancy Howell at wcaudubon.org. We want this to be we want this to happen, not like missing the boat as we did with the Sherwin-Williams building. And a couple of other volunteer opportunities. We need photographers for our bird walks, fundraising and friend raising assistance, having fun events. Um, Participate in some of the things that we've been invited to, such as Earth Day events, and the Metro Parks has events that invite us. So staffing a table, that type of stuff. Writing for the newsletter, all good stuff. So again, please reach out to me, either Nancy Howell at WCAudubon.org or info at WCAudubon.org. Keep informed with our e-newsletter, sign up, and that would come maybe about every week or so, and it just kind of keeps you updated as to what's happening with the chapter. And of course, we always want people to become members. And as I mentioned, Michelle was not going to be able to be here this evening, but I do want to bring up some information. She is our birdwalk coordinator. And we'll be chatting about bird walks as well as social media. So we have a field trip coming up on this coming Sunday, February 8th, starting at 9 o'clock. And this is at the 49th Street outflow. This is where the warm waters from the sewage treatment plants, nice and clean water, come into the Cuyahoga River. And since the river is getting pretty frozen, those warm waters do attract a number of waterfowl. and perhaps some herons, things like that, gulls for sure. So Al Rand will be leading that. We'll park at a lot called Bachi Park. I think that's how it's pronounced. And then walk to the site. So be prepared for the weather, appropriate footwear, warm clothing. That would be the best things to do. Of course, we always have our second Saturday bird walks on the second Saturday of each month, this time on, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Bring your sweetheart with you. But Bill Deininger, Dave Grasskemper, Al Rand, and Ken Gober are our leaders for that second Saturday walk. Our urban birding is will be bald eagles in the month of February. So our urban bird walk will start at the Canalway Center and we'll walk the towpath. This is on Saturday, February 28th, starting at 9 o'clock. Again, we'll be along the Cuyahoga River, so I know there's a lot of common mergansers along there. Who knows what else we're gonna find, and at least one bald eagle nest will be passing by. Who knows how many other eagles, both adult and immatures, we'll see that day. So it's myself and Al Rand who will be leading that walk. Of course, follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and I don't know what that little one at the bottom is because I don't follow social media a whole
YouTube.
lot. Is that
That's YouTube.
YouTube? Thank you. Thank you very much for you social media followers. I just laugh at myself. All righty. Drina Nemes is our book discussion coordinator. So Drina is here this evening. Drina, are you here?
She's muted.
Unmute Drina, please.
Well, hello again. And and we'll be talking about our next read. We've had two wonderful books so far, Close to Home by Tor Hansen, then Wild America by the wonderful Roger Tory Peterson and James Fisher. And that leads us then to Return to Wild America, which is Scott Weidensaul retracing of what Roger Tory Peterson and James Fisher did in 1953, and he did it 50 years later, 2005. There is a change of dates for this particular session. Originally, we were going to be the 28th of April, but now it's going to be April 21st. Next slide, please.
Nancy.
Well, you can see that Scott Weidensaul here is holding an owl, a snowy owl, and he loves them and has done a lot of research, but he also is an expert on saw-whet owls. And he is a journalist, a research, and in the last decades and so, he's been extremely involved with migration. It's hard for me to believe that it was 3 years ago that we read one of his books, Wings on Migration. I would have sworn it was just 2 years ago, but it was 3. And then he's director of ornithological programs at the famous Audubon's Hog Island in Maine. Next slide, please. Well, this is a map, and it looks very similar to the map that Roger Tory Peterson and James Fisher did as they cruised throughout America. Their journey was 30,000 miles around the perimeter, and they did it in 100 days. Now, Scott Weidensaul does much of the same, but he has some other places that he goes to. And I don't know yet how long it took him, but he did not put the same constraint of 100 days on his journey. So it takes you all around North America from Newfoundland down the coast to Florida, over into Mexico, up into Arizona, California, and then in Alaska. Next slide, please. It is available at the Cleveland Public Library, either as an ebook or as an actual hard copy. And you can also find it at various online booksellers. On Hoopla, it is not in the Cuyahoga County Library System, and it is not an audiobook. And I think that is about it.
Yes,
Yes,
thanks so much, Drina. That's too bad that it's not in the Cuyahoga County Public
it is.
Library system. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's where I was gonna grab a copy. So, all right, well, I'll just have to try a Cleveland library. Thank you so much again. The book discussions are great. We had a really great discussion that Drina led for the last one, the Wild America. It was fun. Our coffee coordinator, Amanda, is not available. However, we want to make sure that you consider Birds and Beans coffee. We do have it on our, well, we will be putting it back on our website. Birds and Beans, of course, had to deal with all the tariffs on, tariffs off. And so their prices, we wanted to make sure we're putting the correct prices on the website. So the coffee store or the button on our website will reopen on March 21st. And again, Birds and Beans offers so many different roasts, so many different grinds of coffee. It is bird friendly and it's Smithsonian bird friendly, which means the tropical rainforest is not cut. The farmers receive a living wage, and it's organic. So it really does tick off a lot of great things. And of course, we know that during the non-breeding season, many of our songbirds are in this type of area, and they're much more protected. They have the foods and the insects that they can feed on without being with the coffee growing beneath the forest canopy. So yes, please, if you are interested in the coffee, you can go to the website starting again March 21st. We want to make sure the prices are stable, no up and down and changes. But what's even better is Amanda delivers the coffee to you. You don't have to pick it up any particular place. She will come right to your home and drop it off. So that's really one of the great benefits, one of the many great benefits of this bird-friendly coffee. Thanks. Marianne, our Climate Watch coordinator. Marianne, take it away.
Okay, well, this has not exactly been the most accommodating winter for a climate watch, but several people have actually made it out, done their climate watch squares, which I applaud them for doing. It's not exactly fun to go out there and shiver. Last Sunday, Tom and I went out and did ours, and we never left the car. So, I mean, it is possible to do it without leaving the car and freezing your little body off. And if you're interested in doing a square to show Audubon what birds we still have here during the wintertime, Audubon is actually targeting a few species, and they're bluebirds, towhees, the two nuthatches, and goldfinch. Is that it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. But if you use eBird, you can report all the birds you see. We got lucky on Sunday, and we saw a red-breasted nuthatch on our route, which is I've never seen that before in our little square. But we had mainly raptors, which is probably why we didn't have any birds. We had Merlin, Eagle, and Sharpshin Hawk. So we'll move to the next slide, Nancy. So if you're interested in joining our climate watch, it's not really difficult. You just count those. All you have to do is be able to recognize those 5 species, and then record them, and I can explain to you how to do that. And if you're interested, call me take a picture of this slide and either email me or telephone me at that phone number. And the climate watch is going all the way through to February the 15th, so you still have time to get it done.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. It is a lot of fun. You pick 12 points, 5 minutes at each point, listening for those 5 species: American goldfinch, eastern bluebird, towhee, and the 2 nuthatches, as Marianne said. And it's a lot of fun.
It is.
All righty. As we move along, I did want to mention our March speaker program, Southeastern Landscapes Managing for Remarkable Diversity. And this is being done by Dr. Andy Jones, former Cleveland Museum of Natural History ornithologist, and now the executive director of Spring Island Trust and Low Country Institute in South Carolina. This is on Tuesday, March 3rd at 7. It is by Zoom only, but please note this presentation will not be recorded. So for folks who like to go to our YouTube and watch the show, or watch the program again, or watch it for the first time, this one won't be recorded. So please make that yourself aware of that. But this evening, I'm so excited to introduce Killian Sullivan, the American Birding Association's 2025 Young Birder of the Year and Birder-extraordinaire. Killian is a 13-year-old birder from Gahanna, I hope I'm saying that right, Ohio. His birding passion began with a Steller's jay and has grown to nearly 700 species across the country. Actually, Killian notched his 700th species in July with the sighting of a family of spruce grouse in Michigan. And that was according to the ABA Birding magazine. The January 2026 issue of the ABA's Birding magazine also has an item on the Ohio Young Birders Club, to which Killian belongs, visiting the University of Michigan Biological Station to learn about Michigan's endangered breeding birds. Birding complements his love for travel, adventure, and rock climbing. His favorite birding destinations are Southeast Arizona, New Jersey's Cape May, and any pelagic. Yay, pelagics, love them. At home, he loves observing his favorite bird, the Carolina wren. And of course, with the little blobby thing Killian has numerous publications, artwork, and presentation under his belt. And please note, I tossed in the Steller's jay and the Carolina wren. Again, the Steller's jay is what his spark bird is, and his favorite bird is the Carolina wren. So we thank everybody for joining us, and I am going to stop share, and Killian will join us with his program.
Should be sharing it right now.
Yep, whenever you're ready. It's coming up.
Everything look good?
So far, just needs to be on the full screen. There we are. Fantastic.
All right, great. Can everyone hear me okay before I start?
Sounds
Can't see
good.
any of you, but hopefully getting some thumbs up. All right. It's an honor to be here with you this evening, and thank you for the invitation. Birding has changed my life, and I'm excited to share my experience and gratitude with this community. Let's learn why birding may just be the greatest comic book. While preparing for this presentation, I came across the elements that make for an interesting comic book. There's a compelling origin story, superpowers, mentors in a strong community, a nemesis challenger quest, and all this takes place in a distinct universe with each story ending with a bigger picture. As I began to learn more about comic books, I realized I may be living one. In fact, as birders, we all are. I can't wait to share my stories and show you the great adventure that is birding. Like all comic books, my journey begins with an origin story. No, I was not bitten by a radioactive goose. That would have been awesome, though. It starts in Lake Tahoe, California, at a campground with a mysterious blue bird. The bird was large, bold, and loud. I'd never seen a bird like this in Ohio. I took a mental picture, and days later, when we had a reception, I borrowed my parents' phone and searched for the common birds of California. Soon I learned that our campground guests were Stellar's jays. I was hooked. Spent the rest of the trip staring into trees, looking for more. On the ride home from California, I found a piece of paper and a pen. I wrote a birthday list: binoculars, field guide, and field notebook. Soon after receiving these items, I added another one to the list. I wanted to see a downy woodpecker. On my 10th birthday, my parents braved the cold and took me to Blendon Woods Metro Park. After an hour in the snow, we had found the final item on my list. On the ride home from California, things quickly escalated. We began exploring our neighborhood, visiting local parks, and devoting more and more time to birding. I read a book, I watched a movie, and my passion continued to build. But I'm not sure if things would have led here without a key ingredient. Like all comic books, every superhero needs a mentor, someone to show them the ropes, inspire them, introduce them to tools, and even help them grow as a person. I was fortunate to have two incredible experts in my corner. The first was Ben Warner. My family knew Ben for years through rock climbing. One day at the gym, we were discussing my new hobby, and his eyes lit up. Moments later, I had a list of birds to search for, new places to explore, and I learned about this little thing that happens every spring called the biggest week in American birding. We went that spring, and one weekend we attended field trips, caught talks by Ken Kaufman and Tiffany Kirsten, and completed our first big day, led by none other than Ben Warner. That morning, we met Ben at McGee Marsh, 10 feet from the car. Wilson's warbler, Canada warbler, black-throated green, blackpoll, and bay-breasted, all lifers. Then, Ben received a text and said, "Run." At a quick pace, we left the parking lot and headed for the estuary trail. Clearly something significant had excited Ben. Moments later, on my first day, at my first biggest week, I was already staring at a stunning Kirtland's warbler, an endangered bird, bright yellow underneath, with a steel blue back and broken eye ring. Amazing. That day started hot and continued with stops at the Boardwalk, Barnside Creamery, Audubon National Wildlife Refuge, Metzger Marsh, Howard Marsh, and Maumee Bay State Park. It was 10 hours filled with lessons and birds that led to a single day total of 93 species, 32 lifers, and a big slice of pie. We had so much fun during the biggest week, we looked for more festivals to attend. Troop leader Whitney Lynn Franco suggested the Cape May Fall Fest. My dad and I made the drive and visited each of Cape May's bird counts, where we met Tom Reed and Gautam Opte. On a trip to look for American oyster catchers, we met Alex Lamro. When I learned Alex was a professional tour guide that sees 700 species most years, I was obsessed. In fact, ever since then, I've been growing out my adventure beard to match his. It's not going so well. It's also where we saw incredible birds like this northern gannet. I can't wait to return to Cape May next week. After my first full year of birding, I was excited for the next spring migration. One day we searched for a golden-winged warbler at Walnut Woods Metro Park. We didn't find the bird, but we did meet a birder. His name was James Muller. James cares for the feeders at the park and introduced us to patch birding. He also introduced us to chasing. James and my dad share a similar philosophy. Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Soon my family was making trips to the corners of the state looking for new species. Many of these trips were with James. The car rides were a great opportunity to talk about birds and soak up new information like a sponge. Throughout the state, we chased a ruddy turnstone in Dayton, a swallow-tailed kite in Perry, a limpkin in Stark, and a scissor-tailed flycatcher in Licking. My dad and I ventured to Louisville, Kentucky for our first out-of-state chase after the iconic pink-footed goose from the Big Ear movie. James joined us on day trips to New Jersey and Wisconsin, and yes, you heard me right. I said day trips. These were 24-hour no-sleep adventures to look for a vagrant red-flanked bluetail and small established population of European goldfinches. I've traveled to Michigan for a white-winged tern and tufted duck, Wisconsin for a kelp gull, and Arkansas for a yellow grosbeak. I've been fortunate to see 5 Code 5 birds, including large-billed tern, yellow-headed caracara, 2 rare visitors from Texas, and a European robin in Montreal just a week ago. Just last month, I was in the Lone Star State looking for local specialties and a few rarities. On that trip, we visited the long-staying cattle tyrant of Corpus Christi, a bird normally found in South America. The bird has claimed a dumpster as his kingdom, and the abundance of flies have made him a very happy king. I also visited and took this photo of a mottled owl, a species with only one previous record in the United States, back in 1983. It is great exploring the lower Rio Grande Valley. It's exciting to see these unique birds, but it's even more fun to share them with friends. I was honored to be with James in California when he saw his 700th species in the lower 48 states. Perhaps no 2 birds have been more exciting than the gulls I've seen with birding icon Jen Brumfield. On a cold morning, we searched for a rare slaty-back gull in Cleveland. JB had seen the bird multiple times, but it didn't matter. JB was out there to find the bird for other people. After a full day of grinding, we heard Jen scream. Moments later, we saw Josh Vardos pointing and Anthony Rogers firing photos before the bird flew into view. The bird was amazing. A strong neck, dark mantle, broad trailing edge, and piano key pattern to the wingtips. 9 months later, the chaos continued when JB and I found a mint adult salmon's gull on Lake Erie. She was so excited she nearly threw me off the boat. If you want to have fun while birding, bird with JB. If you want to model what the birding community should be, bird like JB. These birds had taken me to some spectacular places. The third element of comic books is a distinct world or universe, like Gotham City, Metropolis, or Wakanda. Lucky for us, birds are nearly everywhere. Nothing excites me more than visiting a new region or habitat. I've been fortunate to travel to 49 of the 50 states. Many of these journeys were inspired by conversations with other birders. We would meet at a park or rarity, exchange stories and bird sightings, then I would have a whole new place I wish to discover. Our birding universe is full of iconic destinations. Here are some of my favorite to visit. Beautiful landscapes and stunning birds mixed in southeast Arizona during monsoon season. I loved exploring the Chiricahua Mountains, Portal, Patagonia Lake State Park, and the Patton Center for Hummingbirds. Some of my favorite birds on these trips were the Montezuma quail, elegant trogon, and varied bunting. I could spend weeks in Arizona and never grow bored. The Zaxton Bog in Minnesota is famous for its owls. I was able to find the snowy owl and northern hawk owl, but the great gray continues to haunt me. One night, a large owl with a flat face and rounded wings flew over me. It was a brief view and only a silhouette, so I didn't feel comfortable counting it, even if the overwhelming odds said it was a great gray. In fact, the very next morning one was confirmed in the exact same spot. Oh well, I hope to get back soon to see one for sure. I've also had the opportunity to study Hawaii's endemic species, including the critically endangered palila, a bird whose population is estimated at only 200 individuals. In Maine, I got to rock climb, eat amazing food, and see alcids like the Atlantic puffin and razorbill. I've taken pelagics in both oceans with Hall of Fame birders, including Alvaro Hallamero, Kate Sutherland, and Brian Pattison. In this photo, I spent 10 hours on the water with 2 young birders, Chris Henry and Ezekiel Dobson. Chris was last year's Young Birder of the Year, and Ezekiel was on his very own big year in the lower 48. There are days where I don't know what is more inspiring, the birds, the people, or the habitat that brings all of it together. Everywhere I've gone, I've been surrounded by an all-star cast of people. I've attended field trips with Ohio birder and big year legend Greg Miller, attended workshops with Amari Ash and Ken Kaufman, and spent time in the field learning from so many others. There's a reason why I'm smiling in all these photos. I've even spent a pelagic trip birding with the Reiser brothers. They recently released the movie Listers, a YouTube documentary on their haphazard big year as rookie birders. I hope them get their life for Northern Fulmar between their bouts of throwing up. The movie is hilarious, and you can even see me in the pelagic scenes. As much as I love these moments with friends and mentors, birding isn't always easy. There were days of frustration, bad weather, long drives that end without birds, and certain species that seem to just stay out of reach. Every good comic needs tension, and in birding, that comes in the form of nemesis birds. Let's talk about some villains. My first nemesis was the fox sparrow, not a particularly rare or difficult bird to find, but my journey struggled. We chased reports and made frequent trips for the species, but eventually summer arrived and they were gone. That June, we traveled to Canada where they breed and still struck out. It wasn't until 8 months later, in the return of winter, when I heard the tossing of leaf litter and located the large rufous sparrow. Similar challenges were met with the olive-sided flycatcher, before still finding one at my local patch. A third nemesis, the ancient murrelet, was just rude. You can even call this one a true villain. We drove to Tennessee to see one, but it disappeared after a 3-week stay. A couple of months later, one conveniently showed up in Ohio. But it was winter break, and we were inconveniently visiting family in Florida. After these painful misses, it was great to finally see the birds on their native grounds this past winter. I bet everyone here has had at least one nemesis, and I hope you find it soon. Not all comics focus on a battle between superhero and villain. Some are coming-of-age stories where the lead character learns to navigate their new powers or seeks a great challenge or quest. My most significant quest was officially launched on June 17th, 2023. It was a hot buggy day in Florida. We were looking for a Code 5 large-billed tern when I met David McQuaid. David and his wife Tammy do a big year. Every year. We talked about recent birds that each of us had seen, then he gave me a goal to see 700 species in the US, a number many consider to be a gold standard. I would need to see 232 more species, and I knew each one would get harder and harder. Not only did David inspire me with a grand challenge, over the years he has given me lots of tips on tracking down some of the harder to see species. Just 2 weeks ago, my dad and I tackled a grand adventure. After school, we drove to Princeton, New Jersey, then looked for a small family of barnacle geese the next morning. After seeing them, we drove to Long Island, New York, where we actually helped the McQuaids find this tundra bean goose. After celebrating with a nice lunch, we drove the 8 hours north across the border to Montreal, Canada. We slept a few hours, then arrived in the neighborhood at dawn to look for an exceptionally rare European robin. The bird made it easy on us, dancing in the snow and flitting between the branches of the tree. From there, we aimed our car west and drove towards home. Stopping at the gull capital of the world, Niagara Falls, 48 hours after we left Columbus, we had returned with 3 lifers, 2,000 miles on the car, and great memories. For 2 years, I've taken epic trips like this, chasing every bird we could. Did I mention I have an awesome family? I had 500 in Florida with painted buntings, then 550 in Hawaii when a great frigate bird flew over us while snorkeling. 600 was found in Box Canyon, Arizona, a 5-striped sparrow, and 650 on a boat in the Pacific Ocean with Alex Lamera, a Guadalupe murrelet, a lifer for him too. After a trip to Oregon, I returned home with 699 species when my dad got a text from BSBO's Jamie Cunningham. She wrote, "I have a good summer spot for spruce grouse in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. If you go, put in the work, you're likely to see them." Towards the end of the summer, we drove over the Mackinac Bridge, hoping for my 700th. It was an anxious drive, but that evening my dad captured this moment with his phone, while I captured my own moment with my camera. A spruce grouse foraging on a dirt road. 700 species in the US at just 13 years old. It was an unbelievable feeling. So many hours reading field guides, studying photos, and scouring eBird, and even more time in the field, searching, looking, and listening. I knew there was an incredible sacrifice by my parents to create these opportunities, and even immeasurable support from this community. It was at that moment I realized birding is more than birds. When I saw that spruce grouse, it didn't feel like the finish line. It felt like the moment in every comic when the hero finally discovers what their true powers are. Birding has changed me. I saw my spark bird young, 9 years old. Now mature and wrinkled, 13-year-old, I could call myself many things. An author and speaker, an artist and photographer, and even a travel agent. In less than 4 years, I managed to learn decades of lessons thanks to my connection to birds and birders. The superpower of writing became my way to reflect, capture the details of each trip, and make the memories stick. My experience with the Kirtland's warbler led me to research and write an article on the 5 rarest birds in the continental US. That article was published in Bird Conservation magazine. Here's a QR code to the magazine if you are interested in reading the article. Other essays, one on Hawaii's endemics and another on North America's terns, were published in ABA's fledgling magazine. Just like Batman's utility belt, the pen was always in my reach. The superpower of drawing and art helped me study the field marks and really see the birds. I had to carefully examine each member of the family to create this piece that compares and contrasts the wrens of our country. The subtle differences in the field are reflected on their size, shapes, colors, and markings. I'll give you a moment to find your favorite wren. The wrens are probably my favorite family of birds. I love the ones in my backyard and the habitats and songs associated with the canyon wrens out west. I created this print to celebrate an Ohio Young Birders trip to Michigan. On that adventure, we got to see each of these birds, common loon, piping plover, and Kirtland's warbler, on their breeding grounds and work with the ecologists that study them. It was so much fun spending 3 days exploring birds with other birders my age. This scene was to remember my trip to California and the flags we took to Pioneer Canyon. My dad and I worked on this one together. We had fun hiding lots of Easter eggs, like James's 700 sign, here with my dad and me wearing my Buckeye birding shirt. Chris Brown's windproof hat and Alex Lamro with his camera and always ready for adventure beard. Someone getting seasick. And the Coco's booby. I wasn't too interested in art before birding, but now I enjoy putting time into Adobe Illustrator and appreciating artists like Charlie Harper, Rosemary Moscow, and Christina Ball. The superpower of photography let me relive the moments, document my sightings, and share them with others. This Atlantic puffin was photographed on the border between Maine and Canada. We were able to get permits to travel to the protected Machias Seal Island, where we sat in blinds just feet from their burrows. It was unbelievable to see the birds so close and hear their calls that sound like chainsaws. This photograph was also published in an issue of Birding magazine. Here are more photos, including one of my favorite birds, the always cute and always angry Carolina wren, a beautiful red-shouldered hawk soaking up the golden hour light, and a flock of black skimmers in Florida. All moments I love to remember. In trip planning, that was my secret weapon. Knowing where to be and when to be there was often the difference between a dip and a lifer. I'd start with field guides and bar charts, then move to eBird-explore. I started creating treasure maps with hotspots and target species. I planned trips to half a dozen states and always checked weather patterns before chasing rarities. We went 51 for 52 in Hawaii, perfect in Colorado and Arizona, 29 for 31 in California, missing a warbler we later got in Oregon, and a flesh-footed shearwater. This summer, we went 9 for 10 in the Pacific Northwest after a heart attack moment one morning. The day before, I had seen a gray flycatcher for $6.99. The only possible target that remained in Oregon was a great gray owl. They sometimes hunt in the early morning along the Deschutes River. Just before sunrise, we saw a large raptor fly over the field at quite a distance. Possibly a great gray? Who knows? Another close call with the Phantom of the North. But that same morning, I did find not one, but 2 yellow rails. My favorite trip? Colorado game birds. It was a journey I desperately wanted to take. I found a tour company and sent the registration link to my parents. They laughed when they learned it was $6,000 per person. Undeterred, I continued to search for options and found a cheaper alternative. Only $5,000 per person, a relative steal. But my parents still guarded their wallets. I was determined. Between field guides, eBird, and the many friends I'd made through birding, I started doing my own research. Weeks later, I hatched an 8-day, 4,100-mile journey through Colorado and Kansas that would take us to all the game birds and alpine specialties I hope to see. Best part, it was much, much, much more affordable. I listed targets, multiple places to search for each, details on habitat, behaviors, and more. I also listed driving times, hotel options, and a way to connect with a young birder in the state. Next, I gave my best sales pitch, and a couple of months later, we were on the road. We won a perfect 19 for 19 on that trip, which included challenging species like boreal owl, northern pygmy owl, all three rosy finches, and white-tailed ptarmigan. I have more trips planned. I just need to convince my parents to book them. All these skills, correction, superpowers, came through birding. But in every comic book, once the hero discovers their powers, there's a bigger question. What will you do with them? Superpowers aren't just for winning battles, they're for protecting, building, and leaving something behind. For me, birding gave me powers and opportunities I never expected, but it also gave me responsibility to use them, not only for the community, but the birds themselves. That brings us to our final comic book element, stakes and legacy. I started small. I spent a year researching the birds in my neighborhood and created a small trifold guide that was printed and delivered to all 200 homes. I want to showcase the diversity of species in our backyards and encourage more people to become birders. Next, I improved the habitat throughout the community. I built and maintained a feeder station, constructed brush piles, and removed invasive honeysuckle. It all made a difference as the neighborhood list grew to nearly 100 species. Next, I tackled conservation efforts at school and partnered with Grange Insurance Audubon Center to restore their upper wetlands. I was able to help fund this project by co-writing and receiving a $2,000 grant. I started guiding, first with James, then at my local patch, and most recently at the Biggest Week. There I co-led tours with Rosemary Moscow, the brothers from Badgerland Birding, Jason Hall, and the Wisco birder, Dexter Patterson. I'm still psyched about the female cerulean warbler I found while guiding on the boardwalk last year. I think the proudest I felt as a birder was the first time I got to put on my very own gold cap. The cap guides wear at the Biggest Week. I tell people the gold cap is the black belt of birding. Finally, I undertook my boldest project. I pitched a 6-course workshop to Grand Insurance Audubon Center titled the Buckeye Birding Series. It started in November, and I taught one workshop each month until we reached spring migration. The first course was an introduction to birding and focused on size, shapes, colors, and behavior. I created these 2 activities for participants to practice with shapes and colors. Each of these represents a paint swatch. Based on the colors and relative amounts, can you guess each of these 6 birds from Ohio? I'll give you a minute to think about them before you sharing your answers. Also take a guess at how many of these birds are starlings versus grackles, using just their silhouettes. All right, let's see how you did. Number 1 is a belted kingfisher. I don't see the slide moving. Give me a sec.
Here, we're going to stop share just for a second. Does that look good now?
Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, sometimes
cool.
technology is great, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. So number 1 is a belted kingfisher, specifically a female with that light brown belly band. Number 2 is a mallard with the green head and yellow bill. Number 3 is a woodpecker, specifically a red-headed. Number 4, ruby-throated hummingbird. Number 5 is a Baltimore oriole with that beautiful orange. And I really like number 6. It's actually a rock pigeon. And I really like that it has that purple and green because it's not a bird we often think about as having those beautiful colors. But if you get them in the right light, they're pretty awesome. When I counted the silhouettes earlier, I came up with 9 European starlings and 42 common grackles. Here we are looking for the long wedged tail of the grackles versus the short tail and translucent wings of the starlings. Even in poor light, there is plenty of information here to correctly identify the species with practice. The second course focused on the use of resources like field guides, apps, and eBird. During the research phase of this class, I learned about Florence Miriam Bailey, who wrote the first North American birding field guide in 1889. She titled it Birds Through an Opera Glass. I also learned that Ken Kaufman's field guides are known to be some of the most accurate due to careful photo editing, where shadows and colors can be adjusted to best illustrate how the birds would look in the field. The third class was titled Anatomy and Plumage for Better Identification. For this lesson, I created a puzzle to help birders learn the anatomical features like supercilium, malar, and auricular. The participants had so much fun assembling this mystery warbler puzzle. If anyone wants to try this puzzle at home, I have the document on my website, which I'll share in a moment. It was also published in this month's issue of Birding Magazine. I chose the magnolia warbler because it has nearly every field mark. For the anatomy and plumage lesson, I was even granted access to these skins and noticed a mistake in the museum's tagging. Both these hawks were labeled as juvenile Cooper's hawks, but if we look at the evenness of the tail feathers, lack of neck, and blotchy markings on the breast, this is clearly a juvenile sharp-shinned hawk. We can see some of these differences illustrated in Rosemary Moscow's Great Comic. In the upper left, we see the rounded tail of the Coopers versus the squared-off tail of the Sharpie. We can also see how Rosemary shows the differences in the brush streaking between the two. While size may seem like an obvious way to determine Sharpie versus Coopers, it should be noted that there is significant overlap based on the sex of the bird. As a result, one should always analyze multiple field marks when identifying. The fourth introduced habitat, seasons, migration, and vagrancy. The fifth was devoted to birding by ear. In April, on the cusp of the biggest week in peak spring migration, I put it all together with a sixth class on warblers. Hosting these classes was a joy, and it really made me reflect on how much I had learned over the years. To make sure even more people had access to the materials, I created a website titled buckeyebirding.com. All the workshops, lessons, activities, and useful links can be found on my site. I encourage everyone to check it out and share it. A huge thanks to my mom and dad, both teachers, for helping me build the course and register the website. As I have been speaking this evening, I hope you've been reflecting on your own birding and seen the parallels between your adventures and a comic book. I created a worksheet that is posted on my website for everyone to fill out if interested. Here's a look at that worksheet. Looking back, I often wonder if that single cellar jay in Lake Tahoe would have turned into 700 species without the amazing support of this community. Perhaps my love for the outdoors and its birds would have been strong enough on its own, but it wouldn't have been so spectacular. I know that my success is the result of paths built for me, and I hope that my attempts to conserve, guide, and teach will open new paths for those just joining this brilliant adventure. Every great comic ends by zooming out on the bigger picture. I know that birding is more than checklists. It's community, mentorship, conservation, and joy. My story is not just about one kid with binoculars. It's about all of us. Birding gives us adventure, challenges, friendship, and purpose. But most of all, it gives us the chance to write the next chapter together. So here's my challenge to you. Keep birding, keep protecting, and keep inspiring, because this is one comic that never has to end. Thank you so much for this honor in making this epic journey in comic book life possible, especially my family, James and Ben, Vortex Optics, and of course, BSBO. Thank you.
Bravo.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Love the graphics.
Yes.
Love that you were in listers. I did not realize that. Of course, I didn't recognize the back of you at that time. Wonderful Barnside Creamery reference.
Yep. Always
Yep.
where I get lunch at the biggest week.
Yeah, there you go.
Only day of the year I can have ice cream for lunch.
Oh, supposed to have it for breakfast too. I don't think they're open that early. Wow. So folks, I'm gonna look in the chat, see if there's any questions. If I don't see any questions right now, but if you'd like to raise your hand, if you're interested in asking a question or unmute and ask away, although there might be some people speaking over each other. Anybody?
I have a question.
Okay, Brina.
Yes, I heard you say, Killian, that I think you said that you found Ken Kaufman's guides to be perhaps your favorite right now. I'm not sure if I heard all of that, but I was wondering if you have other field guides that you really enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I really like Ken Kaufman's. His are awesome. And I definitely like the Sibley field guide as well. I like those both go hand in hand really well because, sometimes you like a photo guide, which is what Kaufman mainly does, and then Sibley is drawing. So you can have that bit of preference there. And then, yeah, I have some more like specialized field guides by different authors on specific families, like the Goal Guide by Amari Ash. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I guess I'm going to pose a question. I mean, you touched on it a bit that, you're identifying birds, you're creating habitat, getting rid of non-natives, that type of thing. I love that little field guide that you also created for the neighborhood. That's like my brain's going to explode here. But what do you think is really the most crucial thing to help birds today, not just in our own backyards, but in the world, in North America, in Ohio? What do you think is crucial?
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely there are huge problems with cats, feral cats that are snatching birds. And I think I read somewhere that it's like over 1 billion birds losing their lives every year to cats. So I think maybe something with them would probably be one of the most important things to tackle.
Thank you. Anyone else have some questions? I again, this was a absolutely fabulous. And you created all those slides using what, Adobe? Was that, what is it that you use to,
Yeah, it was Adobe that we used to.
okay, all those cute little bird drawings? Wow, how cute.
I
And
see.
my favorite is winter wren. I love winter wrens.
All right, cool. Yeah, we saw one a few weeks ago at one of our local parks, and they're a ton of fun just bouncing around everywhere.
Yep.
I see a question in the chat. What is your next project? Um, it's not really a project, but in a week, like I said, we will be heading out to Cape May. We're going to be hoping to find some winter Atlantic specialties and then take the ferry over to Delaware. And then we'll go on a pelagic, hopefully, and maybe see some dovekie, which would be awesome. And then I'm also hoping to give this presentation a few more times at a few birding festivals, which should be a ton of fun, including the biggest week.
Definitely a ton of fun, that's for sure. Lily asks, what are some bucket list birding destinations?
Ooh, that's a good one. In the United States, I would definitely say I think it'd be awesome to go up to Alaska someday and
Do
go
it, do it.
go out on like the Aleutian Islands would just be insane.
Oh,
And then outside of the country, I think Panama and Costa Rica would obviously be some really two awesome destinations to hit.
wonderful. Anyone else? Nice little applauses coming up, little hearts coming up. So cute. Appreciate it.
When you went to Colorado, what time of year was that when you had saw so many birds on that trip?
That was early April, I believe,
April.
which anywhere
Okay.
from early April to late May is prime time to see all those crazy chickens or weird chickens, as I call them, all the grouse and prairie chickens out there to see them displaying on their leks, which is an unbelievable experience. Their displays are awesome.
Now you and your dad travel, and how about your mom? Anybody else in your family? Big birders?
It's mainly me and my dad. My mom will go if the weather is anything that's not like what we're in right now. Um,
Oh yeah, those fair weather birders. I
yeah,
understand
but
that.
my mom is definitely not one to, go up to Cleveland in the winter and go scope for gulls for a few hours. But my mom is going to be taking me out to Southeast Arizona this August. So I think she'll have a ton of fun out there. Warmer temps, and it's just a great vibe out there.
Nice, nice. Now, do you attend school or are you homeschooled?
I do go to school. For some of my trips, maybe I'll take like a Friday off just to get, an extra day on the weekend. But yeah,
Okay. And both your parents are teachers?
yes, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Works out nice in the summer because, they get breaks, we get breaks, so we can all travel, which is a ton of fun.
That's great. Well, this has been a real delight. I am so glad that we were able to get you involved here. And, all of us oldie moldies, yes, myself, I try to stay young at heart. How about that? So, but thank you so much. And we really appreciate it. Just love the way you put this together with that comic book aspect. It's just great fun. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the birding life. How about that?
thank you, you too. I really appreciate the invitation, and
All
this was
right.
a ton of fun.
Thank you. Good night.
Good
Nice.
night.
Thanks everyone for joining us. And I will hopefully see you on the trail somewhere. Good night.